Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So a few days ago the Snake Eye archetype was debuted. They showed a few of the cards and a few of the things that they can do. This is a new archetype that's going to be released in Age of Overlord. They're really interesting. I can pretty much tell that Konami is really trying hard to push for support for the fire attribute this month. Well, not this month, more or less this year in 2023, with the release of Battling Boxers with new support, Salmon Great with new support, Volcanics with new support, and a few other themes. Like, Konami really is trying their best to make sure that the fire archetype actually gets a spot in the current TCG. We also have a few other ones like Infernoble Knights that's getting support until its Nexus. We're getting new Rescue Aid support that's also coming in the TCG with that set. And yeah, like, so far I think that they're doing a really good job. I think by the end of this year or by 2024, we should be having a fire attribute archetype doing very well in the format. At least considering the format that we're at right now. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm going to talk about like Snake Eyes as a whole. I won't go super in depth with them, but I will bring up a few utilities or a few cards that came into mind when it came to like a few cards specifically. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. You have Excel, Orc, Birch, and the Flamberg Dragon, and you have the original Tainted Treasure. Take note, this card is also tied to another archetype that also is going to be released. It's called the Diabolestar. I'll cover that in a separate video because there's a lot to talk about involving them. But for now, we're going just with the Snake Eyes. They all share, all the level 1s share the common theme that they can summon a Snake Eye from the deck, sending a card you control and themselves to the graveyard. This one is a quick effect to do that. The other two are ignition effects. The one outside of the norm is the Flamberg Dragon. The Flamberg Dragon can target a monster in the graveyard. Take note, it's any graveyard. And it places it as a continuous spell, which is another theme that these guys follow. And they also can bring back fire monsters, and can also bring back whatever you have on your spell and trap zone. So I tried to think of a theme that it's really relevant to this one, like very similar. The first one that came into mind was like a combination between like Infernobles and like plants, because you know, Longfire, Jasmine, other cards that really like siphon cards from the deck. But yeah, so now we'll talk about their individual effects besides the Flamberg Dragon, because I already brought that up. Excel can add a level 1 fire from your deck to your hand. Orc can target a level 1 fire that's banished during your graveyard and take it back to your hand. And Birch can special summon itself if you control a fire monster. So it's basically an extender. So when the theme came out and they brought up level 1 fires, I'm pretty sure the first thing that came into people's minds was Kurikara. Kurikara is a very popular monster right now that has been played in a lot of main or side decks. It's a card that really decides a lot of games, and there's a really hefty price tag on its back for a very good reason. And just having an archetype that has innate synergy with Kurikara is really good, because it means that Kurikara is not as much of a brick as it is more as like an engine card that you can play in this deck. So yeah, the synergy with Kurikara is mainly with Orc and Excel, because you cannot special summon it out of Flamberg, and you cannot special summon it out of Orc, and you cannot special summon it out of the Tainted Treasure. I'll talk about Treasure in a second. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that Kurikara was the first thing that came into mind. The first thing that came into my mind immediately was Infernoid Decatron and Laval Volcano Handmaiden. Why am I bringing up these two? For starters, these both are tuners, so it gives you the lines of playing synchros in your deck. The second thing is these two monsters are very pivotal and very like important for their respective archetypes. The Volcano Handmaiden serves as a card that fuels your graveyard for the theme, and it makes it so you have a lot of synergy and a lot of combo extension with other Laval cards. Like, for example, the Searing Firewall, and the other one would be Rekindling. Like, these two are really powerful cards that like make it so you can do a lot of combo strategies. Like, they summon a bunch of monsters at once. Like, this is basically Soul Charge, and Soul Charge is already like banned in the TCG and in the LCG for a very good reason. So just having an archetype that can facilitate the use of this card could mean something really strong. That's why I kind of brought up Lavals. In the fact of Infernobles, Infernoids, I'll talk about Infernobles in a second. So in the fact of Infernoids, Decatron is the most important monster in the archetype. Is one of the cards that really starts all your plays, and Infernoid was never a bad deck when it came to its win condition and how strong the monsters are. The biggest issue of Infernoids was always consistency. So just having a deck or an archetype that fuels the consistency of your starting plays with this deck, it's very, very favorable. Like, the trickiest part about Infernoid is just proper deck building. I think outside of that, it's just a deck that can be really well positioned into any format if you build it correctly and you like have good success with it without suffering from consistency issues. Take note that Decatron has also 200 defense, so it also works with Rekindling. And if I'm not mistaken, yep, we do have a Snake Eye monster that's also 200 defense. So I think, like, deck building wise, you can fit this card in it if you build your deck correctly. So yeah, these are the two first archetypes that came into mind immediately off the spot. Another archetype that came into mind was Metal Foes. The main reason I bringing up Metal Foes is because the Snake Eye monsters work with putting monsters in your spell and trap zone, and they also work with sending cards from your spell and trap zone. And Bismuth Gear is a card that can facilitate that. It's also a Pendulum archetype, a strategy that kind of generates off pluses if you just like start using cards, your resources. So on the right hands, this could work well with Snake Eyes. So yeah, I mean, you only have like one Pendulum skill you can search out of it, but it's still worth mentioning because you can do a lot of crazy things with it. These cards can tutor out the Rescue Ace Hydrant. As people already know, this deck is doing very well in the OCG, and not only that, the cards are coming soon in Duelist Nexus for the TCG, so we might see some success with it. So like this is just another level 1 fire monster that pretty much starts a lot of your plays, and just having an archetype that has like ways to search for it, or like summon it, it's pretty cool. Um, Now we can talk about Infernobles. There's one, two, three, four, five. There are 5 Infernoble monsters you can search with the Snake Eye monsters, and one of them is a really important one, like being the Renaud. So, Infernobles is one of those decks where under the right hand with proper deck building can also be really strong. It's pretty much on the same boat as Infernoids right now. This deck has a lot of combo potential. It can work with many other archetypes or other strategy. Like there's one build running around that is like a hybrid with Infernobles and Mekankos that has been doing well, like on the local level and some regionals. So just mentioning the fact that there's like 5 cards in the archetype that can have synergy with Snake Eyes, I felt like it was worth bringing up. So now we can talk about the Tainted Treasure. The Tainted Treasure says that you can send one other face-up card you control to a graveyard, and then you can special summon one level 1 fire monster from your hand or your deck. It also has a graveyard effect. It pretty much recycles a Snake Eye to add a level 1 fire. So this card can also work with all these cards. So now you have, between the Excel, the Orc, and the Tainted Treasure, you pretty much have an engine that you can use for these other strategies that I already mentioned, and like will probably give you little to less suffering from consistency. Like now having 6 more copies of Decatron that you can pretty much grab or summon, it's really strong. Like again, I already brought up that Infernoids is a deck that suffered from a lot of consistency, so just having more and more copies of this card could actually help the deck. I bringing up Link Apple. This is a TCG exclusive. Well, it was a TCG exclusive. Now it's already in the OCG. But this is a pretty much a really cool extender you can use if you're playing a Link heavy strategy. So if you're playing something like the Laval deck that I'm bringing up, or like Salamangreat or other combo decks, you can use this. This can also work with the Snake Eye cards because they can add or summon this. But yeah, this is a little brief discussion. There's a lot more to see when it comes to these cards. There's a lot more to explore. We'll see how this trend looks upward, but so far I have very high hopes for these cards. I think there's going to be a lot of experimenting. Like right now, I mentioned all of these cards, but I haven't mentioned Volcanics at any point. And Volcanic Shell is a card that you can search out of these. I'm pretty sure that there are other cards, like the Rimfire is another Volcanic that works with these cards as well. Take note that the Snake Eyes are Pyro monsters, so they do have synergy with these cards as well. Like, yeah, I think there's a lot to explore. I think I have really high hopes for this archetype. I think this archetype will do well in the TCG depending on how people do with proper deck building. It's still a ways away for this to be released. We're getting Age of Overlord in October. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about these cards. I hope you found this video like informative or interesting, and keep practicing and keep dueling. And little side note, the North American WCQ is happening right now as the time of this recording, so be sure to have fun watching or dueling. whichever you are in the perspective.